Hello, this is the Auntie M podcast. We're back with series 3, baby.
Hi Em, how are you?
We're back in the seats.
I'm so excited. I'm in a slightly different seat than normal actually because I've broke my desk, but you know,
well, it's season 3. That's what happens in season 3. The producers mix it about a bit, you know, add new characters in.
Yeah, shift the setting, although we don't have a setting because we're a podcast.
Well, hi everybody, we're back with season 3. We're here with the Auntie M podcast. I hope you have been caught up on all our previous podcasts if you haven't already. And this series is going to be all about surviving jobs, from getting a job to interviews to keeping a job, office politics, interview techniques, and career changes, and also being a woman in the workplace, and everything that affects it and in between. I mean, I should say man in the workplace too, because I know it's changing for them as well. Mm-hmm. So don't want to leave their men out, obviously.
We love you, men.
We love you, men. So in this series, it's going to be a bit of a shorter one before we go on break for summer holidays. This season, we have 3 amazing guests coming up with individual stories that we hope will speak to you. We have a self-taught artist, Genevieve Leovold, who is going to be talking about her journey to be an independent artist. We also have a poet, Becky Golding, who will be coming on to talk about her amazing creative journey. And also, Helen Larkin is going to be on talking about when she took her employer to court and won. So we're going to... Yeah, woohoo! Nash doesn't need to come on, we just woo! So this week, it's me and P, Auntie P, and we're going to discuss our own journeys and talk about our jobs, our highs and our lows, and what we've been through. Because actually, quite recently, both of us have gone for job interviews.
Yep.
How was that, P?
Actually, really positive because I was very confident and I also didn't have anything to lose. But it was really good to do actually, and a massive boost to my my confidence.
Yeah. In fact, I actually really like job interviews. I do very well at interview. The thing I worry about is getting in trouble after when I've got the job, which inevitably happens. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. If you've got job interview, here's a funny thing. Well, not a funny thing. You don't have to take the job. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something I've had to learn as I get older. It's like, it's okay to interview for a job and not take it. That's okay. It happens all the time. And I think we both had job interviews for jobs we were really interested in, but we didn't end up neither of us took the job.
Mm-hmm. And we're not sure. Well, I definitely got the job, but we're not sure about Auntie M, are we?
No, I withdrew early because, well, this is talking about anxiety. I told them that I got a job somewhere else because I didn't want to tell them the real reason. And I know it's really silly, but I felt like I couldn't. But actually what it was, they were asking me to work weekends and holidays. And even though I thought I said it was going to be all right, it's not all right because I have kids. And it's very hard because we don't have family near us. So I couldn't do it. And I'm really frustrated and I really wanted to do it. But the reality of it was it wasn't going to happen. So anyway, but I'm sure I felt positive that it was a very positive experience. I felt like they were going to give me the job, but it made me, like you said, it gave me a confidence boost. Yeah. That I'm not completely in the trash bag right now.
Yeah. And I think it's that funny balance, isn't it, in midlife where you're sort of like, confident in when you're younger, you feel like you have to impress at job interview and you don't have much experience of them, and you're often interviewed by people older than you.
Yeah.
And you maybe feel, you have to impress, and certainly I definitely had a situation, my first ever teaching job, where I did the interview, I got the job, and it wasn't actually a place where I wanted to work or live even. And I took the job because I was scared I'd fail all my other interviews.
Yeah. I know exactly how you feel. Yeah.
And then I ended up living miles away from my support network and doing a really hard year in Swindon.
Oh.
I love you, Swindon, but you weren't for me.
But you are Swindon.
Nonetheless. Let's get into the dark and muddy waters of our employment history.
Right, okay. Right, do you want to go first, Pete?
Yes, I'll go first. Okay, so...
Rattle them off.
So,
can you remember?
As we've... Yeah, because recently I was applying for jobs, you have to put your employment history, so I've actually been on a trip down memory lane, but I am old enough to have a good old 2-page plus CV.
Oh.
All right, so I've done... so I started my first kind of Saturday job when I was a kid was selling flowers on a market stall.
Yes.
And then I worked at Sainsbury's for a year between uni and A-levels. And then at Sainsbury's I got the special job of being the flower lady because I had experience with flowers.
Amazing.
Good pro tip.
You also dated the flower man, so...
I did also date the flower man.
Pro tip! Date...
Not at Sainsbury's, the market one.
Right.
Date your boss.
Carry on.
Continuing. Then at uni, I had bar jobs, and I also worked in factories in the summers and at Christmas. So I worked in a dairy and a cheese factory, and that's it for factories for me.
Right.
And then after uni, I ran my own business for 3 years selling vintage clothes on eBay.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and then I was 26 and I didn't really know what to do with my life, but I had a degree, and a friend came round. I don't know if you remember Liz Perrett, Elizabeth Perrett. She had a brother called Dave Perrett.
Yes. Oh, yeah. DP.
Yeah,
DP. Right.
So a friend came round and said, sign up for teaching. And this was 2007. And she helped me fill in the form online, and off I went to the University of Plymouth and did my PGCE. In fact, Auntie M helped me by giving me my 2 weeks work experience in a school where she was already a teacher. Do you remember that?
Yes!
And you had a lovely student that liked to get his todger out in the corner of the drama studio, as I recall.
Penny.
I've never experienced that in all my years teaching since.
It's me. It always happens to me.
So then I went to Swindon for a year, and then I went to do 2 years teaching in Moscow, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And I came back in 2010, thought I would travel again, kind of full of good intentions, turning 30, and didn't. And then I did a TESOL qualification, like a teaching English as a foreign language, and I did a summer school of that. And then I worked for 9 years in my last job, which was
it 9 years you worked there?
Yeah. So I moved from being a drama teacher to becoming a special needs teacher, and then a SENCO, which is a special educational needs coordinator in schools. And then I got kind of burnout, I think. I'm not going to lie, COVID was a challenge, and I resigned from that job and am now working with autistic adults in an FE college, which is still teaching, but it's a different world. And I've just taken voluntary redundancy, and I've got no idea what I'm doing next year.
Midlife crisis? No, midlife adventure.
Midlife adventure.
That's when you actually say it like that. I mean, obviously I've known you so long, and I've seen you do so many of these jobs, but you forget, what a journey that is. Like, that's mad. And it sort of twists and turns, isn't it, really?
Yeah, and ups and downs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the bulk of my career, I'd say 14, 15 years of my career has been teaching, but you can have adventures within one career field, right? You can have
Oh yeah,
very different experiences doing those things.
yeah.
And
Although
I think,
some people literally just go in and they end up sort of feeling very stuck, whether it's where they work or the person they are. They just kind of end up quite, you know, sedentary in their job, and whether that's a choice or just the way it is. But I mean, you definitely go out and look for different challenges and stuff like that. So
well, it's not, I think usually it's like more that I just want to escape from whatever circumstance I've got myself into, and it forces me into a change. But yeah.
Better go. I'll just get my coat.
Yes, basically. But I think historically, like, that's historically been how it is. And at the moment, I'm at this point where I really want to be making positive choices and taking steps towards things rather than steps away from things.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm more confident in myself. I know I've got skills. And one of the lovely things about the job I'm sadly leaving is I think I spent 9 years kind of growing into a professional at my last job, and I had amazing supportive managers. There were issues, not going to lie, but basically I kind of grew up there and I had a really good reputation. And when I was leaving, everyone was like, oh, you're so good though, and you're so kind, and you're so brilliant at your job, and you know all this stuff. And I always felt like a bit of a fraud. I had, what's that?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, so I had like massive imposter syndrome. And actually going into an FE college and smashing it, it sounds crazy. The reason I know I smashed it is because my colleagues, since I've been telling them I'm leaving, have just been absolutely lovely and saying like, we're going to miss you, you're so
Isn't
good.
Isn't it funny though that it's only when people leave or something's coming to an end that then everyone tells you how wonderful you are. And you think, why don't you tell me that when I'm doing the job so that I'm not thinking about leaving? It's like when somebody dies and everyone says nice things about them. You're like, people didn't say that to me in real,
No, exactly. And like I read a quote the other day about that, about how, people wait till someone dies and then say lovely things at the funeral, but we should all say them to people we love while they're alive.
Exactly, man.
And I've super been trying to do that in my personal relationships, just affirm all the time how much I appreciate everyone, but especially the people I love.
Yeah. And because what's the point of saying it when they're dead or when they're gone? Let's not let's step back from the whole death conversation.
Yeah, when they've resigned, what's the point of saying it then? But yeah, no, it's been really, really good, and I don't know what my next adventure is going to be, but I'm excited for it. For once in my career,
life.
I'm excited for the next bit, and it feels really good, and a little bit insecure financially, but good.
Okay.
Right, let's do your job history.
Oh my god. Okay.
This is going to be checkered.
It is. It's a roller coaster. Hang on. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember what my first job was. I'm pretty sure it was Center Parcs. I think my mum was a team leader at Center Parcs and I got a job. And then I did maid service over at Center Parcs, and I did that for a while. I love cleaning, actually. I've had a couple of cleaning jobs, and I cleaned at there's a posh hotel outside Bath. I cleaned there. Loved it.
Cool.
I do love cleaning, I have to say. I worked obviously factory jobs. I worked in the frozen fish factory, which was great because it was either the dairy or the frozen factory, which were the two big factories near where we live. So I worked.
But I feel that the dairy is slightly higher class, and I beat you on that one.
Oh my god, there are so many stories about factory work that it needs to be its whole other podcast because it's a whole other world, man. Right? Anyway, but we were student-y. So I worked there. I worked in the factory. I worked in a second-hand video store, which is that's how old I am. That we didn't sell DVDs. We sold VHS.
Wow.
And that was a bit of a mad time. That was linked with a shop called Raves from the Grave. It's called Videos from the Crypt. and they were crossing
Yeah.
each other. And Raves from the Grave is still open. It sells vinyl, which is cool, whereas VHS is just dead, right?
Yeah.
So I worked there, and I was in a band. I got paid. I was in a band. At uni, I worked in a really shit music store. Was it MVC? It was like really rubbish. I worked there during uni, and I left uni and I worked in another factory. I worked in a coat hanger recycling factory. I did. And I also, I tell you what else, I worked one day, and it will never leave me. I worked one day at the racehorse thing and a bar, and they put loads of contract staff. What do you call them? Like supply agency work. They put only agency people who'd never worked behind a bar behind this bar, and we
At the racetrack.
Yeah, at the racetrack, and people were buying champagne, and we sold the expensive champagne for the price of the cheap champagne, and it overflowed, and our trousers were soaked with beer up to our waists. Because nobody was helping us, and we all had to stay for an hour after while they scolded us and told us that the till was down and that we had to pay them our wages for the day. And then there was literally 6 of us all there with tears in our eyes. And we were all like 20, 21, just like,
Did you get paid?
No, I don't think.
Oh my God.
Oh, anyway, it's funny, like that. It was one day, and it will never leave me. Yes, I've worked in shops. I, literally working, and then I trained at university performing arts, and then I did a teaching degree, and same as you, I went to be a drama teacher, and I got a job in a school. I got the first job I applied for and went for it. That did not end well.
Yes.
We can talk about that later. That did not end well. And then I went to another school, and I did much better.
That was your old school, right?
Yeah, we went to school, and I went to work.
Frome College?
Yeah, Frome College, and I went to work there, and that was a really positive experience. Did very well at that job. Was about to go to South America to do archaeology, and the same as you, like, I'm going to do something, and then ended up getting back together with my stupid uni boyfriend, who... Stupid old.
I'm shocked because he's now her husband and might listen to this.
Yeah, do you know what though, P? I don't think he does listen to this. He never has time, so I'm going to say whatever I want. He said, "Don't talk about me." Well, if you're not going to listen, so God, yeah. Where am I going? So I was a drama teacher, and then I did supply teaching, which was awful, and then I hurt my back. And I realised I had a herniated disc in my back, and I had arthritis in my hips. And that was a really bad health problem, which really affected my self-confidence and my work. I went to Singapore to teach. I did quite well. And then I worked in a kindergarten. And then I had children. I had my son and I worked in a kindergarten. So he was in a little creche while I was working in the morning. I did mornings. But I tell you what, once you have kids, it is so tough to then go back to work. The guilt. I mean, again, this is a conversation, hopefully, that we're going to talk about with Helen when she comes on in a later episode about that work-life balance with children. It's incredibly difficult. And for women, the pressure is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I've done loads of teaching. I went to Canada. I wasn't able to work because my arthritis got so bad. And then we moved to Paris, and I had a hip replacement, which was fun because I didn't have very much French. So the whole time I was just like nodding, and they were doing whatever they wanted. And they fixed me. They did really fix me. It changed my life. And then I was working, I think 5 years. I worked at TAM, which is Théâtre Atelier Montreuil, where I was teaching French kids and adults English through drama. And now I am a volunteer at a women's centre. So I volunteer, I don't work. Oh, I tell you what else I did in my job history. We've done so many jobs, haven't we? I've also was a social media content manager for 18 months, which I got fired from. Hooray. But also, I was an influencer for a while. On the
Yeah.
original platform of before TikTok was TikTok, it was Musically, and I was being a paid influencer, and it wasn't it was amazing, like to get that far, as it like, ooh, I'm famous, look at me, and I was being paid like not very much, but I did it. But then I made the decision not to do it, and I'm kind of glad that I'm not some sort of famous TikToker, because also I'm a bit old. I'm too old for that. I don't have the energy.
I don't know if you're comfortable saying this, but you've said to me on occasion about not feeling so confident in your own experiences.
Yeah, I think as well, when you don't work, like as a parent, you make a decision: am I going to go back to work, or am I going to stay home with my kids? And neither, there's no right or wrong, but there's still a lot of guilt. You put it on yourself, right? Either way, right? Either you're out there doing it and you're earning money for your family so they can have a better life and that you can feel fulfilled that you're doing something, or you stay at home but you're missing out, or you're at home with your kids all the time and you get really frustrated with them because sometimes you don't speak to another adult except for your partner who comes in, and then you're like and you don't speak and you're there with them all the time, but you're not appreciating it in the same sense. And then
and also you're not getting the opportunity to then build a career for yourself.
Yeah, and then also I haven't worked proper. I mean, I worked at the theatre in France, but it was only like a few hours a week. It was even less than part-time, and that was enough. And sometimes they'd give me extra hours and things, but it's the fear. I mean, there was 3 of us that worked there. You know, it was so small and it was so intimate. It didn't feel like a job. I think if I did it for free, it would have been fine. You know, I was happy. But it was that the fear of going back into the workplace, of being out of it so long that you feel like you're on the tip, you know, because you feel like you're so irrelevant because you've had such a big break.
So if we look back at our careers or our work history, what advice would you give a young person at, you know, just graduating uni, or perhaps someone who's sort of 23 years old now? What advice would you give them?
Oh my God.
Or what, say 3 key things that they need to be aware of when they're thinking about careers?
Nothing is set in stone. Don't put too much expectation on yourself or the job. Do something you love.
That's 3 good tips. I like those, Em.
I want to be more. I want to explain them better, but I think if you do something you know, they say if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think about 1% of people in the whole world get to do whatever that job is. But you know, when I teach and it goes well, I really do have a buzz because I really feel like I've helped people. But when teaching goes wrong, it can really, really mess you up, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a real seesaw kind of activity. And maybe every job is like that, you know. On the days it goes well, you feel great, you feel on top of the world, I'm in control, I can do this. And then something goes wrong. I mean, that's just me. When something goes wrong, everything falls apart for me, everything. And it's that moment where someone says, can I just have a word with you in my office? And you're like,
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm going to be fired. I'm leaving. Don't worry. Here's my resignation.
Okay. What would my 3 bits of advice be?
Go on, P.
Mine would be, don't worry so much about what other people think of you while being professional. Like, stick to do a good job, as in what you see of being a good job. Like, be a good employee, but don't take things to heart that people say.
Yeah.
Because I certainly had a lot of criticism, particularly in my early career, let's say when I started teaching, but actually other jobs that I did where it wasn't actually criticism, it was just kind of workplace bullying or because I didn't quite fit in.
Yeah.
And if I'd had more faith in myself and stuck to my guns, I probably would have been successful, inverted commas, as in confident in myself and enjoying work a lot earlier in my career than I was. It took me a really long time to be confident in the workplace. Good to contrast that 4 years earlier, same thing. A woman starts just shouting at me head of year because I hadn't prepared a lesson for my tutor group, which was after break. And I kind of, it was my NQT year, my first year teaching. And I was like, oh, I've been really busy. I'll just wing it. I've read the material. And she went crazy and like yelled at me about how I should be prepared for every lesson and tutor time is a real lesson and all fair enough stuff. But it was October and I'd been there for a month and a half and I wasn't coping. And I burst into tears and had to be taken home by a consultant. I literally couldn't stop crying. I was hysterical. So, you know, what a difference 4 years makes.
Oh, you poor thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And then everyone treated me like I was a lunatic for the next
they were like
3 months.
Yeah. But that's the thing, isn't it? Like, it's like, oh no, she's crying. Oh my God, don't make her cry again. She might.
Yeah. Or she cried, she can't cope.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And actually, I actually think vulnerability and crying is a sign of
like it's
that someone needs help.
Yeah, someone needs
or
help.
B, it's actually it's an honest response and would suggest to me that I need to change something in the way I'm managing that person.
Yeah.
Or the way they're experiencing the workplace.
See, on a very similar, I mean, we've gone off on a tangent, but hey, when do we not? But when I was saying about my first teaching job that went really wrong, I was having possibly one of my first real kind of mental health breaks. It was coming up now. There was a lot going on. Yeah. And I had the vice principal came in and saw a lesson and he called me to his office and he basically almost fired me on the spot.
Wow.
And I cried. Now, not only this, now you'll appreciate, anyone who teaches will appreciate the story. This group was a year 8 group that I only taught for one lesson every 2 weeks. So not only did it not matter what the hell they did in my class, right?
No.
But there was a very low relationship between me and these kids because they only saw me once every 2 weeks and it was the end of the day, right? It was the last lesson of the day. It was basically a boiling pot of disaster, right?
Yeah.
It went very badly and he almost fired me and I'm in his office and I absolutely burst crying with him. And I said to him, oh God, and my sister had a miscarriage as well, quite a late miscarriage. And it was like literally, and I was like, you know, like sobbing hysterically, being like, I was like, oh my God. I was like, and my best friend. And my boyfriend's trying to hit me with a knife, right?
Oh my God.
And I was there and he was just literally just looking at me as if I was a total lunatic. And I said to him, and I pulled myself together and I said, please. I said, I know I'm a good teacher. I know I am. I'm doing a school production, which is going to be amazing. Will you please come back? Like, give me a month. Come back in a few weeks' time. Come and see any lesson. Just drop in. You will see a completely different. And I said, I can turn it around. And he just was there shaking his head. I worked so hard. And I actually handed my notice in because basically the senior management team took a disliking to me, and that was it. And no one helped me. And I kept making bad decisions. But instead of somebody stepping forward and saying, this person obviously needs a bit of help and guidance, they basically just said, F you, and he never came back. He never came to see any of my lessons. And I did an amazing show with my kids. I transformed the school hall into like a futuristic dome. We did a devised piece with devised. It was honestly, Pete, it was the most amazing show. It's like Tenacious D. This is the greatest song in the world, but this is just a tribute. I could only just and honestly, and do you know what? None of the senior team came to see the show.
Oh, no.
And then when I left on the last day, they had flowers for all the staff that were leaving and cards, except for me. And they absolutely made it 100% clear that I was a disaster. And then he rang up my new school where I was going to tell them not to employ me, which is illegal, by the way. It's against all the rules. And I've forgotten why I'm telling this story.
And how did that experience? Because I had weirdly,
I never
3 or 4 years later. You never stood up for yourself, and also I had almost a very similar experience at the job in Swindon. So I had the crying jag. The opposite, though, was that I had a really supportive line manager and a lovely team.
Yeah.
And we did Little Shop of Horrors, our end of year show.
Yeah.
And all the senior team came and saw it. And I actually got speeches, flowers, a nice ending to my NQT year. And people were positive about the journey I'd gone on and the changes that I'd been able to
But that's
make.
the thing, when you're young and you go to work, you think you're grown up, but you're not. When you're 23, 24, you're still a child. And I don't mean that in a patronising way. I mean it like you still have so much to learn about responsibility and your position and your ethics and what your job means and how you need to behave and the politics. But instead, whereas you had people that recognised that and said, we know there's a good person inside. You know me, Pete. I mean, at school, I was never really in trouble.
I've seen you teach. You're incredible. You're a brilliant teacher.
I'm a nice person. I'm not angry. I not aggressive. I just made some bad decisions and I needed help. And what they did is they just turned their backs on me and made a decision and wrote me off. And I felt like that for years. And it was so hard. And even now, I would be so afraid to go back into a school, even though that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah. And actually, that's something I was going to ask you about, because I feel like we did plan today's episode and we had kind of a number of things which we seem to be kind of working through, actually, in a kind of zigzaggy way.
Yeah.
But maybe today's episode is about that. Like, maybe it is about how do you protect yourself and how do you get the best out of work and how do you deal with a toxic work environment and the negative impacts that a lack of emotional intelligence in the workplace can have.
It's the last part of the show. We're going to ask ourselves this and our guests these 3 questions. They're meant to be quick fire.
All right, we're doing it quick fire then.
Yeah, we're doing it quick fire, right. Right, both of us. Okay, first of all, what is your best job and your worst job you've ever done?
Best job is the one at the moment, working with young autistic adults.
Nice.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
Yours?
Best job, working with Helen in the Butterfly at Longleat House, and that was one day, and it was the best day of our lives. Thank you.
In the Butterfly or in the Butterfly House?
In the Butterfly House at Longleat, those who know it, and we basically had a bow and arrow fight with the shitty toys from the shop.
That's an amazing best job.
We were never allowed to work again, but man, we never forgot that day. Dressed in the ponchos that we'd found from 1970. Anyway, what was your worst job?
worst job was probably being a fittings model for fashion agencies. Well, like I was working for an agency, but basically when clothing manufacturers make clothes, they need someone who's a perfect size 16 or 18 or 12 or 10. So they get every dress size and you have to go and try on the clothes. And I did it for the white stuff and they were like, you're not a size 16. And I was like, I am. And then it was because I was too short and all the clothes were like dripping off me and they sent me home because I was the wrong shape.
Oh, darling.
But I was the right measurements. So
Right, well, F them. But that does sound like a real soul destroying.
It was a moment. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, so have you got any funny interview stories, like something really awful that happened to you in an interview?
An interview where I thought I'd got the job and I thought I'd done really, really well. And then they came and told me I hadn't got the job. It was a tricky time in my life and I burst into tears on the lady. And then I couldn't calm down for like 40 minutes. I cry a lot. I'm a crier.
You're a crier. I think my standout worst interview was when I said, and that's why I am successful. And then I went, sorry, I meant successful. And I said it again.
Yeah!
Okay.
All right, last one.
Okay.
What is your dream job? What did you want to be when you were little?
Okay, well, that's two different things.
Okay, what was your dream job when you were little?
When I was little, I wanted to be a scientist who saved the rainforest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
You learn something new every day.
You do. You were just like really crap at science at school.
I could have done a play about it.
Yeah, you could have with jazz hands.
Yeah. Save the rainforest. Jazz hands. What was your dream job, P? Go.
I wanted to be Prime Minister.
Did you?
I did.
Wow, P, there's still time for both of us. Come on.
Whoop, whoop. I couldn't do worse than Boris, let's be fair.
Oh, man, I think you'd do an amazing job. You'd just cry. You'd just be outside of 10 Downing Street going, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm just going to need about 40 minutes. And then I'm going to sort it out, all right?
Yeah, that probably is what would happen.
Right, well, listen, after that twist and turn roller coaster journeys of our lives.
Oh my God, you're going to have so much fun editing this.
Oh my God, yes. Right. In 2 weeks' time, this episode will come out. We really hope you've enjoyed it today. And if you have any amazing job stories you want to share with us, whether your best or worst jobs, funny interview stories, or what you dreamt you wanted to be when you were a little kid, please write to the show. We're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at Auntie M Podcast, or you can email us at auntiempodcast@gmail.com. So that's it. Goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Living in a village. I had caused problems in the village because
I'd caused problems in the village. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that so seriously. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say that. Scratch that. I've never heard anyone say that they've caused problems in the village.
I did though, P. I caused problems.